maybe this one on the end, okay? And you can zoom in as you need to. All right, so I've already drawn my 3 circles. I've got a ground line right here, okay? And my circles are all sitting on this. Our goal is to do a light, a medium, and a dark. It does not have to be in that order, because guess what? I might start my light one, and my light one is too dark, so maybe it becomes my medium one. And as I work on it, maybe it still becomes too dark, maybe that one's my dark. But if I start with my light one, I have 3 tries to get it right. I don't care what order they go in, as long as you try and get a light sphere, a medium sphere, and a dark sphere. The other thing is that in every sphere, you're gonna have a highlight, sort of your core medium value, and what we call a core shadow. Underneath it, it has what's called a cast shadow. There's also a little bit of things called reflected light, which is where light comes back up and bounces off of our sphere. We'll talk about that as we go. So when you're looking at these 3 things, it's extremely important to start with your light source. So here I've drawn my 3 circles, and I've got my light sources indicated where I'm gonna have those at the top. If you wanna draw them to look like little lights, you can, okay? And very lightly, all I need to know is where this is gonna go. So I'm gonna touch my light source, line it up with the outermost edge of my object, and draw it to my ground line. That's where my shadow is gonna sit from here to here. But this is also important because this light's gonna basically tell me where my highlight's gonna fall. So I'm gonna look at this, and in the middle of that space, the middle of that cone, coming straight down through the center, is where my highlight's gonna fall. Now I'm actually gonna draw this as an oval right now, super light. Can you guys even see that? Maybe? Okay, a little bit. Okay, let's see, I'm gonna see if I can lift it towards the camera, so maybe you can, if the camera will even focus on it. See that right there? Super, super light. But the reason I want to keep that super light is because I'm never going to have an oval. I'm never actually truly going to draw that oval. So I'm going to have my eraser, excuse my reach, so that later on I can actually erase that out. Opposite of that is where my core shadow is going to fall, okay? So if you're basically looking at it like this. So my core shadow is going to fall over here. It is not an oval, okay? It's not a spot. It is actually more like a crescent, and it's going to fall right about here. Now I'm just going to draw that in for a target for you to see. You don't necessarily need to draw that because you don't want it to show up as a line in your final piece. So these are for illustrative purposes at the moment, but this will give me a place to work. Now, neither of these are on the edge. That's super important because an object is rounded like this. It goes around. When it goes around an edge, you always have another value that is past that that's going away from you. So it's always going to be slightly darker on the other side of your lightest light and a little bit lighter here. That's going to come from reflected light from your darkest dark here. Now, if your environment's very dark, you may have your darkest dark on the back side. Okay, so there are several things to remember. I'm going to go from dark to medium to light, dark to medium to light, because on all sides I'm moving towards the light. So this gets kind of tricky because I'm dark, medium, light here, which I'm not going to draw in the middle of my sphere. But basically this is going this way and this way, okay? Those are going to get in the way of my shadow later, but that's okay. So now what I can do is I can basically start to figure out where I want to start. I'm going to start here by just putting some value in. Now, another thing that you want to and this is where that gradation bar that you worked on your value scale is super important. Because here, as you go, I need to lighten my pressure. And this is why I do the 1 pencils instead of the drawing pencils, is because right now I wouldn't want to be trying to switch out pencils to do what I'm doing. I'm just going to layer. But if I keep doing this all the way across my sphere, it's going to be super flat, right? So if I just made this whole thing all the way across like this, my sphere is going to look flat. And that is because, is my value, let's see, yeah. I'll draw a little bit darker here so the camera can see a little bit better. As I start drawing across, if all my values are the same, I haven't gotten the round that happens. And this is where drawing these rounder objects gets harder. So if I just do this, does that look pretty flat to y'all? Does it look like a sphere yet?
No.
Go ahead and zoom in on this a little bit. Thank you. So it looks pretty flat because when you're doing a sphere, when I say it has to go dark, medium, light this way, dark, medium, light this way, dark, medium, light this way, it's got to actually round with it. So that means your edges are also dark, medium, dark, light, or medium, light, medium. You got to have it darker on all edges than the center. So I'm actually going to work my circle, my sphere, not just up and down, but also from the edges in. And as I begin to do that, it will start to round up. Okay? Now this is not a quick process. I'm just not going to lie to you. So here I could take 30 minutes and I could draw this whole thing in front of you for you to see this sphere. But in reality, it's going to take some time. So what I'll probably do is draw on this a little bit more and then come back and show you some more. Is it starting to look more round now? Mm-hmm. Okay, because it's going from dark to light to the center also. So it's not just one direction, it has to go dark, medium, light. All edges are always darker, but the top edges are lighter edges than the bottom edges because of that cone of light. I do encourage you to start from the outside and work your way in. It's just easier. Okay? All right, now while I've got this bottom part drawn, I want to show you about that core shadow, okay? So here I've got my highlight and here's where my core shadow is going to go. This is where you're going to make sure, this is the only place where it kind of can look a little bit like it's got an edge to it. Doesn't have to have that full gradation. But my core shadow is still going to kind of be gradual on the top side of that, all right? So here I'm sort of making it more like this. Now the reason you don't have that shadow on the very edge, and the reason this defuncts everything I told you about it being darker on the edges, and you're like, yeah, but it's darkest not on the edge there, is because any surface reflects onto another surface. So if a sphere is sitting on this gray table, that gray table is going to receive light, and that light on the table is going to bounce back up and hit my sphere. So here, this table is receiving some ambient light that's kind of coming from around where light just bounces around, and so the light from here is actually bouncing up on that table. And that's why you leave that little bit right there of reflected light. So as I begin to work on this, and as I begin to get a little further along, it's going to get more and more and more round. Now how do I do this highlight? How do I treat that? It's great to have your little target up here for your highlight by having that little oval if you need to, but you don't really have to. So if you just kind of want to go up here and just sort of fade out and not have any light, that's fine. By the way, do you think this might be my light, my medium, or my dark? Somebody said medium?
Yeah, medium.
Medium. Did you know that almost all of your objects are going to have a value range that is about 8 values deep, meaning it's going to have lights, mediums, and darks. So a white dress, for example.
I think we have 1 minute left in class.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
A white dress is going to have just a little bit of dark value in it, in its shadows. So, do you see where we're headed with this? Okay, we'll pick it up later. Thank you for your attention.